let's go back to the assignment, to the in-class assignment, and look to, again, have a quick look at the project characteristics. Before that, for this system that I have tried to present it to you, that is based on mutual communication, mutual trust, alignment, to ask. This is all about it, to ask and ask and ask. This requires two things, and I think you have said something about that there must be some sort of communication between the two parties, the client and the performing organization. So in order to succeed in project management, we need these three simple principles. The client or the owner or the customer should have competence in project management. And we know very well, like many projects that NTNU undertook or has become a failure, really has become a failure, did not produce the result, the intended result. It's mainly because the owner, the client, didn't really know what they were doing. So the competence of the owner is very important. And number two, commitment. The people who are involved in the project should really use time on the project. The same thing applies to the performing organization, the organization that will produce the results. And number two, we should always keep in mind that success, one important success factor is about close and continuous communication between these two parties. Because people have different expectations, different needs, different understandings. Communication is the only way to narrow it down. And number three, trust. Trust. You can't live without it, especially in Norway. I know some of you came from different cultures, and some of you are Norwegians. In some other different cultures, the most important thing is control, to exercise control. The more control, the better results you get. But in Norway, trust plays a very important role here. So it's enough. If you can build that trust, you will obtain better results than just applying routine control. So Norway, it's a cultural factor. My advice to you, think about it as an important element in project management. Now, let's look again about typical characteristics of projects. And project has many different, it's very difficult really to describe every feature, all the features of projects in just a few lines. But this is my effort. I have tried to condense all the features of projects into 4 major characteristics. Number one, we say projects always have this problem of time pressure. And we call this, I want it yesterday syndrome. When we start any project, we have tendency, or we think we can finish that project yesterday. And this time pressure syndrome, it has to do, or it is manifested in either the duration. We want the projects to be completed in shorter durations, or we want the projects or the result of the project to be launched at certain dates, at certain time. For example, the Olympics in London, or the Olympics here in Tromsø 2020. We can't really wait to 2023 to make the facilities ready. So the timing of launching is very important, and the duration of the project is also important, because you know, the longer duration, the more resources you need, the more cost, and you will not be able also to run other projects in parallel, because all your resources are committed in one particular project. So we need to free our resources. So this is a problem in project management, time. but there are methods to deal with time. And these methods you will learn in this course. How can we deal with time? How can we actually create the right atmosphere so that all the project or the project members know how to respond to that. So this is the very first characteristic. The second characteristic is uncertainty. Uncertainty, this is something you witnessed today, but you didn't know that it was uncertainty. This is lack of knowledge. You get an assignment, you created your own perception of this assignment, and you overlooked the fact that there are a lot of unknown factors in that project. There were a lot of unknown stakeholders in that project. There were a lot of unknown expectations in that project. This is because of uncertainty. This is the term we use in project management. And uncertainty also manifests itself in the budget we create up front for the project. Like these numbers you really put here. What do you like certain? Like the duration you put 10 minutes. Why not 11? Why not 15? Because they were uncertain. We were guessing. In many situations, it was guessing. So that's when we are going to build our estimates later on in this part, we will learn how to include uncertainty into our estimate so that we have an estimate with confidence. Another thing about this uncertainty that at the beginning of the project, it's very, very high. But as the project is approaching the closeout phase, it becomes less and less. And this is very obvious because at the beginning, there are a lot of information that are unknown, and then we learn more and more and more about the project, and then at the end, the amount of uncertainty is very less. So uncertainty is the lack of knowledge, which means for us as a project manager, we should always try to gather knowledge, right? We gather knowledge through learning, we gather knowledge through communication, and another important thing is we gather knowledge through using competent project members in the project. So competence is a very important factor in dealing with this uncertainty. Another characteristic is ambiguity. Ambiguity, it has to do with how we express ourselves. And this is not uncertainty. Uncertainty, we express ourselves, but we cannot predict the future. But ambiguity, we are not able to express ourselves. Or if we express ourselves, our expressions have multiple meanings. I'll give you one example to show you this with a multiple meaning. Yesterday, I saw a woman with a binocular. How do you understand this statement? Yesterday, I saw a woman with binoculars. You know. How do you understand this statement? What does it mean? Yesterday, I saw a woman with binoculars.
Either she had binoculars or you had the binoculars.
Exactly. So this is one dimension of ambiguity. You say something that can be interpreted in many different ways. And especially when you start collecting the requirements in real projects, you will find that meanings can be a lot of meanings. And the impact of that, you will produce a project with the wrong scope, wrong specification. The end result will not satisfy your target. So this is the ambiguity. And in this class, you know, if you recall, I told you as high as possible. What does it mean? Right? What does it mean? Like in Norway, because most of the people are very tall, right? As tall as possible should be a lot more than in a country where people are a little bit shorter. Because it's relevant. It has to do with relativity. Good looking. What does it mean, good looking? It can be interpreted by so many ways. To satisfy the owner. Nobody asked me, that's the thing. Nobody asked me what is required, what we need to do to make you happy. Although I told you many times, put 3 lines under the square, satisfied. Nobody asked me, what is it? How can we make you happy? You see, all these are ambiguous statements. You have to deal with them upfront. And the drives for this ambiguity usually in project is again, maybe it's directly related to time pressure. In many situations, because we really don't know, and because we really want to start the project, so we always say the deal drives the project. Just let's do something. And then we will figure it out underneath. We will hammer the details later. These kind of statements are killing statements for projects. Really, they are, you kill your project if you start thinking like that. Unless your budget is open, your time frame is open, your specifications are open, then you can think like that. If it's a new product development, breakthrough. But if you are working on a clear specification or clear project is not a product development, these kind of statements kills your project. And then the last thing that we almost certain that exists in project is this complexity. Complexity in the sense that in any project, because of product structure, because of the requirements, any product consists of many sub-deliverables, sub-components. And each sub-component needs certain expertise. And this expertise will not be necessarily local expertise. Like a company here in Norway is called Aker Solutions. You are familiar with that company? That's Aker Solutions. Most of the engineering is done here in Norway, right? Fabrication is done in India. Testing is done in China. And quality control is done in Germany. So it's multiple locations, multiple cultures, and this complicates the communication and information. Then we need to address that. So all these problems I put forward to you need some sort of a mechanism to address that. So we need a lot of things. We need structured, good project management. But like today, just a reflection. We know we need all that, but why we don't? And I say that from experience with real project managers who have fallen into this trap that you today have fallen in. Going right to the solution, right to find it. Why? Why we do that? What are the causes of these shortcuts we are taking that they kill the project? Why? I think understanding these pitfalls is very important to avoid them, in order to learn how to avoid them in the future. So why? If I ask you, why nobody asked me, except that group and this group? Why there was no communication? What hindered you?
The fact that you gave specification or not the group.
But we discovered that they are, so you thought, if I may rephrase that, you thought that the specification was good. Enough. This is, just to follow up on him, this is one important problem in project, what we call assumptions. Assumption or anchoring bias. I gave you one piece of information and you think this is all what you need to go on the project. This is a big problem. Every piece of information you get, you must question that piece of information. It's wrong. You should think like this. Every piece of information I get is wrong until I prove otherwise. So anchoring is a problem, assumption. And what you know what we call assumptions in project management? There's a very famous term for that.
The mother of fuck-ups?
Yes, the mother of all fuck-ups. There is a lot, there is a plenty of assumptions in project management. So if I may summarize with you, like what are the main pitfalls that always happen, that you should be always aware of. Number one, we have, I don't know why, but there is a strong bias against or that gets us to focus on only one aspect. I gave you a problem actually that has many aspects. I told you good design, I told you as tall as possible, I told you within a certain time. We people have tendency to select one of these aspects and put all the focus on that aspect. And it is called focusing bias. We look out all the other problems and just look at that particular problem. And once I measured it, I conducted a huge experiment, like 300 people was involved in that experiment. 50% of them was affected by this bias. Focusing, going to make a solution without understanding the real problem. And this is especially engineers always do that. They think project management about creativity. No. Actually, project management is about defining the problem. And then you can find a good solution for that. And the problem with this, or the main disadvantage with thinking like that, is this number one. You will suddenly focus on results, delivering, and we will not look for the outcome. You remember what I told you about projects? I told you projects about creating value. Project actually is not about creating things, but the value that will come out of this. When we fall into this trap, we start thinking only results and not outcome. So I want you to think like that. We shall not only think of output, we shall also think of output. Output and output. These two goes together. I've been working with some like high-tech engineers, and one product developer. One of the things that I notice about these people when they just focus on this output is that they start quarreling. They start fighting. You know why they start fighting? Because they are really good. Each one of them is really, really good, expert. And then each one of them creates his own assumption, his own aspect, and the other creates another aspect, and the other creates another aspect, and then they start fight. They start fight, conflict arise within project group because they cannot get to agree on what should be the output. So they were fighting. And that fighting in many situations reduce the speed, has some complexity. So social complexity can increase when we focus on the output. And needless to say, when we want to deliver, when we want to produce or we want to acquire an IT system, actually it is not the programming that we should really focus on. How to program, how to install. But what we need, what we will gain from this IT system when it is in operation. So this thing I want you to remember, the difference between output and outcome. Good project must satisfy both. And this is the assumption. As you said it, young man, everybody, because of ambiguity and uncertainty, we create ideas. And we go with these ideas without checking the validity of these ideas. And the consequences, you never understood what is really needed. You will never understood the complexity of the assignment you will have. You will never understood the complexity of your stakeholders, and so on. So in this course, you will learn how to control this by using project risk management. This is a very nice tool. It helps us to take each assumption you have and check its validity, check its impact, and check what is the consequences of these assumptions and what we need to do to eliminate or to mitigate these assumptions. So this is something you will learn in this course. And assumptions, as you can see, this is the impact of assumptions. Projects are described that way, they are understood that way, designed another way, presented another way, implemented another way, and the reality is something totally different. It's because of something we call selective perception. What I see is what I see. What I see is what I want to see. Each one of us see only one thing, and they think this is the reality. We need to recheck that again. So assumption is a bad thing. And the last factor which influences our ability to deal with the initiation phase is the human factor. Now, how many of you really, inside the group, were thinking something missing? The data, the things that this teacher presented in front of us was not enough. But because you are new, you don't know each other, didn't dare to say that. You maybe said, okay, it's better to just follow the group, confirm with the rest of the group. I don't want to be the bad guy or bad girl that makes noises, especially that we really don't know each other. How many of you felt group pressure? Just none? I will be totally amazed if nobody of you really felt group pressure. Okay, so nobody felt it. You did? Yes. Of course, that's normal. Group pressure is everywhere. You have a group of 10 people, right? And you might want to say something, but they maybe have other opinions because of, and under the pressure of time, you will not be able to express exactly what you want. And in project, this conformity is a real problem, by the way. And sometimes you have something called dividends. Dividends, when you say, okay, I want to say, but I don't dare. And to be afraid. Difference. And sometimes we do things because of reality, because of cultural factor inside the organization saying, if the boss wanted this way, then we all have to do it this way. It's reality. So these things complicates our way of doing things. And that's why we need this structured approach of project management. This structured approach of project management has, like, our goal is to do things effectively, that is the outcome should be right, and the output should be efficient within the constraints of time and other specifications. This is the whole idea behind project management. Because of singular focus on one problem, because of human nature, we need really something much more structured. And that thing we need is what we call project management. And again, our objective is to execute project effectively and efficiently. Now, the first step in order to do that, we need some sort of a structure, a timeline. And the advantage of having this structure is to divide the project life cycle into stages, and this division will help us to have better control over each singular stage. And this division actually is mainly used for control. Companies, have you heard of the term steering committee? Right? Each project, usually large project, has something called the steering committee. This steering committee, actually what they do, they come at the end of each life cycle, each stage, and they ask this question: are we going to continue or shall we stop the project? In order to answer that question, they need documents, they need information. Then they get that information, and based on that, they take this decision: go or kill the project. And this is the most important advantage of having this project life cycle. Now, what is a typical project life cycle? A typical project life cycle, like for instance Pinto and most of the others, they say we need something called the conceptualization phase. After the conceptualization phase, then we do planning, and then we do execution, and then we do the termination. Now, what is the advantage? Why we need the conceptualization phase? By the way, conceptualization phase is the same as initiation phase. It is the very first stage in project management. From the assignment you saw today, why we need that? What is the most important advantage of having the initiation phase? Anyone here can tell me that in one word? Huh? One word.
Successful thing.
Like? Yes, but why we do that? Like this one word, which I love that word. I told you. Alignment. To create alignment in the project. That's why actually this is like the underlying cause of initiation phase. So that everybody who is on board say, yes, this is it. We define the goal, we define the objective, we define the purpose, we define the expectation, we create this commitment, and then we say, yes, we are ready. We are ready to start the planning phase. We created the foundation of this project. Yes, so that's the very, this is why we work so hard at the beginning. And you see, although it is so important, but it really doesn't take much resources. It's talking. And it's not expensive at all because it is about talk. It's about communication. And then we go to the second phase, the planning phase. The planning, what we do? We start making drawings, right? We start produce detailed description of the deliverables. Who will be doing what? Huh? How much it will cost us? And when we do planning here, by the way, there are a lot of plans, as you will learn in this course. You will learn that there are time planning, we have scheduling, we have estimates, we have quality planning, we have risk planning, we have communication planning. All these individual plans must be produced. And a key word here in the planning phase is responsibility and accountability. If I say to this beautiful young woman, you have this assignment, then I say that because after 1 month I will go back to her and say, what did you do with your assignment? I will hold her accountable because I gave her responsibility and the corresponding, of course, authority. So planning, the whole idea about planning is about responsibility, defining precise responsibility and accountability. And then, as you see here, what happens? You need more resources, more time. And then we start this execution phase. Execution means start producing results. Produce the outcome. And at the same time, you have to follow on the results. Were the results according to the plans, or is there any deviation? Do we need to change the plans? Maybe we discovered new stakeholders. Do we need to take them into consideration in this phase? So here the execution phase is when we start producing and we start controlling the output, measure our ability to produce the output. So here, the key word here is we call reporting and performance measurement. You have to measure the performance. And this is, you will learn also in this course, how to measure the performance and how to report the performance and how to change or correct your course of action. And then finally, you start with the termination phase. Termination phase is actually about closing out your contracts, start transferring the facility to the owner or to the client, maybe give training to the client, maybe start developing or building your lessons learned database. So these are what we say the most important phases or stages in project. Some textbooks, some authors, they have 5 rather than 4. And the fifth one, they call it control. And they say it goes actually along the entire life cycle. We have to control that we did this right. We have to control that we did this right. We have to control execution, of course. And we have to control that we did the termination phase right. So it's sometimes 4, sometimes 5, it doesn't really matter. The most important that we need to define or to divide the project into stages, and for each stage we define what we expect, what is important, and what is the output, and what is the input. This is PMI. I advise you to go and look at PMI at the web. It's Project Management Institute. If you write down www.pmi.org, you will find like an organization. They write standards about project management. Very useful site. And they have similar, as you can see. They say we have an owner, and the owner initiates the project, and after initiation we start planning, and we do execution and termination. Pen 2 says conceptualization. PMI says initiation. But they mean the same. So sometimes I will use conceptualization and sometimes I use initiation. But they mean the same. The first is in the life cycle. And when you do this, you have to do control. And the results are deliverables and documents. So this is the basic project life cycle as we know. And I think I will not have time to start telling you about the first initiation phase, because that was my plan, but we are short of time. So we can postpone that to next lecture. In the next lecture, we will look into the first phase, the initiation phase, what we should do, what are the challenges there, how we should do it right, and what will be the result of that phase. That we will do it in the next lecture. But I think it's enough.